Hi, this is Miss Andrea, and today we're going to do something different. I'm going to introduce you to my little friend, and we're going to have a conversation about homeschooling, school at home by the public schools versus time for learning. My little friend is actually me in 2011. In 2011, my oldest child was close to graduating, and my youngest child was right behind him. Um, but what was new at that point was the school at home programs that were starting to get popular. And I just need to let people know what I thought about how this new programming, which is actually a huge thing right now, was measuring up to what we had at the time. I personally used Time for Learning from 2004 to about 2007. Um, and I used the school at home for one semester. Um, Maybe the next year after this video was made. And because they told me things would be different. So, anyway, let's do this new fancy video where you get to hear what my thoughts were in 2011, and I can tell you how it all measures up now.
A lot of people are saying that Georgia has added their own homeschool curriculum um, to what is available to us. And a lot of new homeschoolers um, want to use that because it's like public schooling, only at home. That's what the commercial says. Um, and it's free because homeschooling curriculum will either cost you a great deal of time, in pulling it together yourself, or a good deal of money in buying a prepackaged curriculum.
So I'm a lot, but oh gosh, I was cute almost 10 years ago. That's probably also at my thinnest. I'm working on that, but um, 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 let's continue.
Um, I have problems with the what I call public school at home curriculums for many reasons. Um, First, in that, what's the point of homeschooling if you're using the exact same thing they're using in public school? Your kid's time was being wasted in public school. Um, this curriculum will multiply the amount of time being wasted because they're kind of going by seat time. The kid has completed a course if they've fulfilled the amount of seat time. But when you're teaching to one child, you'll find that time goes by very quickly. So there's a lot of seat time left over. And they fill that seat time with just a lot of busy work. Um, and there was even a time when I was tempted to look at this public school at home curriculum. And I called them and spoke to them. And I wanted to know, how flexible is it? Can my child do the work, do 3 long days, and have 2 days off to do, other things that she or he is interested in doing? And the answer is no. You have to fulfill the amount of time they want you to fulfill per day, and you have to do it 5 days a week. Um, there's no room when you use these public school programs at home, and there's no room to integrate your real life.
So let me elaborate. Um, like I said, the following year after I made this video, I went ahead and signed up for one class each because it wasn't they weren't being very successful in signing kids up for a full course. So they did an a la carte. And so I signed my daughter up for Spanish 2, and I signed my son up for pre-calculus. And once again, I asked the questions, how flexible is this? My children attend a hybrid homeschool program, and they're out of the house, like 1.5 days during the school week. And, they were like, well, since it's just one class, they can be very flexible and, they just get the work done. Cool. Cool. Couple of months in, we're about to go on a trip. My children were competing in a choir festival. That takes an entire week. So 2 weeks before, I call the Spanish teacher and the pre-calc teacher. And I say, so we're about to go on a trip. So how much work in advance can my kids get so that they can, start plugging away at it? Because we're not going to have internet where we are. And how much will they have to catch up on the back end? And I got fussed out by both teachers. And here's what the Spanish teacher in particular said. If your child wants an A in my class, they need to spend 2 hours per day working on the activities. Two. Every day. Can I do it on the weekends? No. Well, guess what? We're not getting the A this semester because I was promised things when I signed up, and we have things to do. You know what I'm saying? So let me explain to you what happens when you're spending, and by the way, the pre-calc teacher echoed the same sentiment. 2 hours a day to get an A in the class. So, say you have 5 classes. That's 10 hours a day for a high school student. That leaves them 0 time for any extracurriculars and 0 time for any anything. So it's just not feasible. And every year I speak to parents who are saying, well, I want to try homeschooling for 1 year and see if it works out. So I'm going to do the school at home. Well, that's smart. If you don't know what you're going to do the next year, you might as well try to keep them on the same curriculum. But the next year they're like, yeah, that experiment didn't work. And I'm like, I wonder why. And they're like, homeschooling didn't work. And I'm like, that was never homeschooling. So that's what people don't understand. That's not homeschooling. For every hour that a student spends in the classroom interacting with the teacher, when the public school moves that curriculum to online, they now want 2 hours of the children's time. They've done this math and they've said 2 hours of seat time equals 1 hour of FaceTime. Not that FaceTime, you know what I mean? So, yeah, let's continue.
So, with that said, I just want to throw another curriculum into the ring that you may or may not be aware of. I used it when my kids were in the lower grades, and if you are a new homeschooling parent looking for a curriculum that's going to allow you to be flexible with your time while making sure your children's education is up to standards, which is a whole nother discussion we need to have at a later time, because I think we worry too much about standards. But it's just where people start, so I guess it's a point that needs to be addressed. So if you're looking for a curriculum that's going to be incredibly flexible and make you comfortable that your child's education is up to standards, then you want to look at Time4Learning. Time4Learning starts in kindergarten and it goes through the middle school grades. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade doesn't cover all subjects, but it covers the basics like language arts, math, and there's an honors algebra, and there's some other things, but at that point you might start wanting to graduate them to a higher level curriculum.
So good news. That was almost 10 years ago. Now, Time4Learning has curriculum for every grade pre-K through 12th grade. And the high school, dang it, covers 4 or 5 courses. And then, you'll get your other stuff in the home throughout the homeschool community. So yeah, I wanted to throw that out.
Time4Learning is done on your computer. It is probably the most affordable curriculum you're going to find out there. It's currently $20 per month. And I think there's a small discount if you have a second child. Many curriculums over the years, and you just really can't beat the price of it. What I like about it is that it's online and it's interactive. For me, when we started homeschooling, for many years, our children had been on computers. Our children were practically born with a keyboard mouse, in their hands. And so I wanted their homeschooling to keep going in that direction of being internet-based because they were really comfortable with it. And they would probably pay more attention to the computer than they would pay to me at some time.
So here's what blows my mind. I started using Time4Learning about 2003, 2004, and I stopped using it in 2007. The price has not changed. It is still $20 for the first child, $15 for the second child. The high school is, I think, $30 per child. That is insane. For 1 month, for one curriculum, for a full, complete curriculum, that is crazy pants. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. That's awesome.
And so when I discovered Time4Learning, I knew I had a great match. It's animated, it talks to the kids interact with it by answering questions. There's lots of giggling involved, so that's always wonderful. And, if you're trying to decide where to start your kids, you can do free homeschooling that takes a super amount of time, or you can pay $20 a month, which isn't a lot to ask, to have the same standards but a ton more flexibility. I mean, the option is yours, but I'm telling you from experience that this is the way you want to go.
So, yeah, that's what I think. Other things you should know. My kids got sick of it. They did. But that's when it was just geared toward little kids, and my kids were maturing fast. So now that's geared toward the whole spectrum. That's kind of cool. I haven't used it in well over a decade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 3 YouTube channels you should go check out because they have talked about Time4Learning. The first is Blooming Brilliant Homeschoolers. The second is The Great Balancing Act. And the third and final one is the Time4Learning page. And here's what I tell people when they ask me about curriculum. I say the first year of homeschooling, you definitely 100% want to go ahead and use Time4Learning. You just do. Because it gives you a daily readout. It tells you how much time the child spent. It tells you how the child mastered work and all of that wonderful things. And you just can't do better than that. As your child matures into homeschooling and as you, as a parent, mature into homeschooling, you're going to want to try different things. But I think if you communicate with the people at Time4Learning, I think they can be very flexible. I still am Facebook friends with the guy who started the company. Years and years ago, I sent him a painting. Um, Speaking of which, I used to be a blogger, before vlogging was a thing. And I was a blogger for 10 years. And I did quite well until vlogs took over. But I had a really good camera 10 years ago because I did like how-to tutorials and I filmed things for my job. Looks like crap compared to the camera on my computer or the camera on my iPhone that I use now. So anyway, that's a young homeschooler versus an old veteran homeschooler's view of time for learning versus pug school at home. I hope this was educational and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.